Welcome back, monks. We were in the monk mode box, and I wanted to tell you about a really cool thing I'm going to start doing. I want you guys to start doing with me. We've all heard of the famous composer Wolfgang Mozart. Okay, Mozart was said to be one of the greatest composers the world had ever seen. He wrote some beautiful pieces that are used in movies that will be remembered for all time. And they said the one thing about Mozart was that he had a special ability, and this was called perfect pitch. He could pick out the exact note in a song, any note he could just hear and know that it was that note, and this attributed to his ability to compose these beautiful songs. So very, very few people in the day had this ability, and they thought like you were either born with this or you were never going to have it. So few, it was like so rare, and still it's absolutely so rare. It's like you can be a musician and discover it, but you could have maybe the ability and never play music and you'll never discover it. So it's an insanely rare talent, skill. But years later, they discovered that that wasn't the case, that it wasn't something that you were born with. It wasn't some genetic. It wasn't in your DNA to have this perfect pitch. This is a superpower. And so what they did was these tests with these young kids, and they began to try to teach them. They were like, I wonder if we could teach them. Everyone thought it was impossible. Okay? After about a year of training, almost every single kid, I think it was 13 kids in this group, all came out with perfect pitch. Now, it was intense training. It was a constantly correcting and finding the errors and correcting those and building upon the foundation, just going up the levels. It just is such an amazing thing, though, because for years people didn't even try. If you had, you had it. If you didn't, you're out of luck, man. Bad luck for you, man. It's like you're not getting it. That's not the case, though. And so that we've realized with certain things, it's like talent is not born. Maybe you're born with some sort of capacity, but you're not born with these skills. No one's born with the ability to go out and just be a womanizer or be super witty or be a comedian. No one's born with the talent to be a blacksmith or to be a professional cook. It's like these are skills that are learned, whether that's chess, whether that's music, anything. You have the ability to learn, but it takes what's called deliberate practice. See, many times throughout our life, we just do stuff. So maybe you just went to soccer, okay, or you play soccer once in a while. You're wondering, I'm not really getting better. Well, dedicated practice is needed. Like, and I say deliberate, it's like you have to set a time aside of focus, where you go over whatever you're doing, and you don't just do it over and over again, because you'll never really get better like that. Benjamin Franklin was obsessed with chess. He literally got so into it. He just would sit there and think about it, and he would play multiple games, but he never became like a grandmaster good. He was always just good. He was never great. And so it just showed in his practice. He could never compete with the guys from different countries. Like, he was playing his friends and stuff, but he never really got better. What we have to do is give focus to what we're trying to accomplish. And we have to find the errors. And then we have to correct those errors. And we have to learn new structures. We have to learn new mental models that we can apply to what we're doing. Because if you're always using the same model in chess, if you're always using the same opening, the Queen's Gambit, it's eventually going to fail. The King's Indian, it's going to fail if you don't learn more and constantly keep correcting, analyzing, deciding, and then acting. And so a very cool thing I began to do, and I ask that you guys do with me, is to get a notebook. Okay? To get a notebook, why? Well, check this notebook out. First off, there's an egg on the front. Now what I want to do is set aside 5 to 10 minutes every night. And I've never looked at it like this, but if we begin to analyze our day and the things we didn't like about it, then we can begin to change it every single day. We can get a little bit closer to using our time more wisely. So for instance, today I realized that I spent too much time on my phone. I understand I spent too much time listening to music and just randomly watching YouTube videos. I spent too much time goofing off. I didn't spend enough time reading. I want to read more. Tomorrow I will read 15 minutes. I spent too much time, I was over at my friends too late. I went to sleep too late. Correct. And so you constantly begin to correct where you're going wrong, and then eventually that becomes a habit. So you're literally applying this deliberate practice to your life. And the reason I want to do it at night also, and you can do it in the morning, you can journal in the morning, but the reason we do it at night is, I think it was Thomas Edison said, you should never go to bed without first giving a problem to your subconscious that it can solve. Okay, never go to bed without giving it a problem, because then as you dream, all this stuff is going on in your mind. One of the reasons we dream crazy stuff, they think, is that in the real world, you can only focus on so much stuff. Like right now, I can only focus on the camera, this book, my thoughts. I'm not worried about the kettle that's on the stove, unless it's on. I'm not worried about what's going on outside. I can only hone in on a few little bits of information all at once. But when you dream, it's like you dream abstractly. You're free because you're unconscious. So your mind just like, and there's pieces everywhere. And so if you can do this and give your brain a problem to solve as you sleep, oftentimes you'll wake up with the answer. You'll wake up knowing the next step and what to do. So again, join me on this developing this habit, and I really believe that it will impact our lives greatly, because you can go so much through the days just coasting by, and then what happens, some days you're really high, some days you're on top of the world, other days you're down in the dumps. See, when you go to bed though with those highs, you'll realize that when you look back on the day, you approached more girls, maybe you socialized and you had communion with friends, and you engaged in dialogue, and you read, and you did the things that you wanted to do. Okay, and it fulfilled you, and so you can narrow it down to what matters and what doesn't, and then you can cut away from all the junk and all the stuff that doesn't give you more strength, more energy, more happiness. Guys, thank you for joining me. I hope you took something away from this video. Let's apply deliberate practice to our lives. I'll see you soon.